Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is an incredible game, nominated for multiple awards including Game of the Year. Indeed, it is also one of my favorite RPGs of this generation, and overall is an absolute mind-blowing achievement. But like many Final Fantasy games of late, it was locked to PlayStation 5, but at long last, the game has finally arrived on PC, and a massive thank you to Square Enix for providing me early access to the game, as in my opinion, this game's arrival on PC is absolutely monumentous. There were so many people, myself included, that were disappointed with the PS5 version's image quality. Now let's clarify that statement because a lot of people think you are saying bad graphics whenever you say that. That is not the case. What people are saying is that when using the game's 60 FPS performance mode, the compromise was that the game had to significantly lower the internal resolution. As a result, the game running on base PS5 looked incredibly blurry to many people. Square Enix released several patches trying to address this blurriness, but none of them were effective enough. Thus, if you wanted to play the game with a crisp resolution, you had to play in the game's graphics mode, which unfortunately was locked to 30 frames per second. Now, listen, I know some of you out there don't have that technical eye, and to you, the performance mode looked just fine. And if that's you, stick with your base PS5 version. So please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because I have very good news to share with you all about this port. The footage you're seeing is the game running at max graphical settings 1440p. Unfortunately, there is no native support for ultra-wide monitors. However, on my rig, the game has maintained a frame rate of 90 to 120 frames per second. So for all of you who love the meme, is your PC better than a PS5 Pro? Yes, my PC demolishes it. I'm currently running an AMD Ryzen 7 9700X, an NVIDIA RTX 4070 Ti Super, and 32GB of DDR5 RAM. One thing that this port has over the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 port is that there are actual, real graphical settings that you can play with. It may not be the most extensive list of options ever, but at the very least, it actually meets the standard of what a PC port should offer. And let me be clear here, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC is leaps and bounds better than Final Fantasy VII Remake on PC. One of the most important things that I need to highlight to you all is that the game didn't really feature any technical hiccups. Final Fantasy VII Remake had plenty of stuttering issues that oftentimes required fan-made fixes. It had some rough issues at launch, and for some people it has made them hesitant about picking this game up at launch. I am incredibly happy to say that this game is not going to have any of those issues, at least not for me on my setup. I was overjoyed with how well this game ran, which again was typically between 90 to 120 frames per second on the max graphics. And I must say, there is a tremendous difference in the feel of the game and its fluidity. Combat in this game has always been exceptional, even at 30 frames per second. But when you are experiencing combat in this system at frame rates of 60 and higher on a high refresh rate monitor, it is one of the most mind-blowing things you've ever seen. I don't necessarily disagree that better graphics don't make a game better. However, I don't think there's any arguing that better performance absolutely does. When I could time my parries and dodges better as a result of the animations being more fluid, then it really does make for a more immersive experience, and that's exactly what happens here on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for PC. This being said, however, graphics are indeed improved, and this is one of the big differences between the PS5 Pro version of the game and the PC version. Exclusive to PC, Square Enix has gone back and upped the texture detail even more. They've also reworked and improved the game's lighting, as well as enhanced the textures and some of the models of the environments, DLSS for anti-aliasing, and VRR. The result is tremendously improved visuals. If you put a lot of hours into this game and stared at it for a very long time, the difference is going to immediately stand out at you, especially with the improved lighting. One quick example I can think of was this image right here from the PS5 base version, which which was sort of a meme at the time regarding the game's lighting. So I thought to take a screenshot here again on the PC version, and you can note how much better the lighting looks and the shadows look versus how much harsher these things are on the PS5 version. There are countless moments that you're going to come across while playing this game where you'll recall how things looked on the PS5 version and immediately note just how much better it looks. One thing that is mostly gone but not entirely is pop-in. You are still going to get a little bit of pop-in here and there. However, this is nowhere near as bad as what was on the PS5 version. The sort of harshness of the pop-in where you really notice things load again and you really notice the LODs kind of getting more detail is pretty much gone, especially if you have the background object set to ultra. When looking at far off distances in particular, you can notice that they still look really detailed and really crisp. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PS5 was still an extraordinarily good looking game, but with that original version, I'm not sure I would have immediately hopped to putting this as one of the best looking games of this generation. But after this PC version, I really do think that this is one of the best looking games of this generation, period. Not to say that it doesn't have some graphical hiccups here and there, but the leap is well worth it. This game is also Steam Deck verified, and after trying it on my LCD Steam Deck and putting the game on the lowest settings, I was able to get around 40 frames per second, and even in some instances as high as 50, with the game running at 720p with dynamic resolution scaling between 50 and 100. The performance is way better than I thought it was going to be, although the resolution can get so low that whenever you spin the camera around to see the characters' faces, their faces will literally be a faceless, blurry mesh, but that just makes it true to that authentic PS1 FF7 experience, right? So it is not going to be the ultra 4K high resolution to play it, but it is more than playable on Steam Deck. All of these little things definitely add up and make Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC the definitive way to play it. There is just absolutely no question. The PC version of this game, as it should be when a port is properly done, is the definitive way to experience Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but it also makes the direction of future FF and Square Enix releases that much more apparent to me. These games have got to start coming to PC day one. I genuinely do recommend buying this game a second time, even if you already own it on PS5. But that being said, PC owners should have the right to buy this game on PC day one, knowing that the game plays this good on modern PCs, and knowing that there is a possibility that I'm going to have to go back to PlayStation 5 performance for the next game. I feel that's just so unfortunate. And for anyone experiencing this game for the first time, or didn't pick up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PS5, maybe you've been waiting for the PC port to come, is this game worth picking up? I would say an astounding yes. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC is probably the best Final Fantasy experience that you can get right now in 2025. The insane movie-like visuals, the intense and fluid combat that combines real-time action with turn-based strategy in a way I would argue that no other video game has, combined with a massive open world and a game that will take you hundreds of hours to complete. I mean, hundreds. They probably went way too overboard with the amount of content in this game, not to mention an insane number of mini games to play. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is absolutely worth it, and ultimately might be one of Square Enix's best PC ports yet, if not their best PC port ever. But these are just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below if you are going to be buying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC, and I will see you all in the next video. Later, guys.